Hello, everybody. How you all doing today? Christian here, and welcome to another Magic the Gathering deck profile video. It's been a hot minute since we've done any of these. Since I think October 2025 was the last time we done a profile, and I do apologize about that, guys. So I think a lot of you guys probably thought, "Oh my God, did Christian stop playing Magic? Did he take a break from Magic? What's going on?" No, I didn't stop playing Magic or didn't take a break from Magic again like I did before. If anything, I've been a lot more active with Magic, and I've actually done a lot of updates to a majority of my decks ever since my Miriam deck that I did during October. Now I'm gonna do an update video about that. What happened? I'm not gonna. That's not what you guys are here for. You're here for the deck profile. We're here to have fun, all that jazz. So after this video is recorded, after this video is uploaded on YouTube, I will be doing an update video, give you guys a full rundown of what's been going on. So stay tuned for that. We're going to talk about that stuff for later. For those of you guys who care about that stuff. If you guys care for the deck profile, let's talk about the deck profile that we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to be back. We're going to be back in the run with doing Magic deck profiles again, and I have a lot to show you guys. I made some upgrades to my decks, and I'm also working on some other decks here and there. I can't wait to show you all. And I've made quite a bit of changes to this deck here in particular. If you guys have seen my last deck profile, you may recall how much I've talked about how much I used to love playing Infect during my modern days, and I still do. I definitely love Infect, and we're still running the big baddie Atraxa. Heck, I even got all the art of her. She looks amazing. But I've definitely made quite a bit of changes to that deck than before, because I've noticed there were some hiccups that the deck ran through in previous builds a lot. And I made a couple upgrades. I definitely made some changes. And it's been working a lot more fluid. It's been working more efficient. And it's been getting the job done perfectly. And I love. Now, it still has some flaws. I won't lie. I will be upfront. And I will say it's technically not how you're supposed to build or play Atraxa in 2026 if you're going with the poison route, and I'll explain that very soon. But it is a build I'm very comfortable with, and I've had really good success, and I usually have a really average or usually a really impressive win rate around my friends and my locals a lot. And yeah, it's a really cool deck, to me at least. I know Infect is not really the biggest fan with the Magic community, and I can understand why. But if you're doing it right, if you know what you're doing, it can be fun even for everybody. It can be fun even for the opponents if you know what you're doing, such. So yeah, I definitely take some considerations since the last time I done a profile of this last year, and again, it's been doing a lot more efficient now. And I'll explain the details what I've done with the deck. Now, as usual, when I do my deck profile videos, guys, if you guys are just here for the net deck my deck profile, that is totally fine. I always allow people to net deck if you guys want net deck. For those guys who are just here to do that, I did leave the deck list in the description down below. I only ask that before you leave, you drop a like and share this video with your friends. It really means a lot to me. Ooh, that looks a thumbs down. I'm sorry. Whoops. There you go. There's a thumbs up. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the profile at the very least. I really do appreciate that. So we're on the goal to hit 500 subscribers by the end of 2026. So it would really mean a lot to me, guys, if you subscribe to this channel. It would definitely help out a lot. But what I really appreciate more, guys, if you follow me on Twitch. My Twitch channel, we're almost at 1,000 followers. It would be super cool, super awesome. We hit 1,000 followers before the year ended as well. We normally talk about a lot about Let's Plays and Pokemon. We don't really do Magic content really. The prime content I do a lot on Twitch channel is usually shiny hunts, but I am always welcome to talk about anything Magic. So if you catch me shiny hunting, especially Eevee or something, you guys are more than welcome to talk to me about Magic. If you guys want to talk about Magic, I'm definitely down for it anytime, and I will definitely consider doing Magic profile in the channel in the near future. So anyways, let's get on straight to the deck profile. So let's talk about the commander herself. Atraxa, Praetor's voice. She's still the commander, and I got the nice little foiled full art version of her. It's so cool. I love it. I have both. I also got the edge foil, quote unquote, original version of her too. I bring both versions just so I can show people that This is the updated text, so Atraxa is a Phyrexian. Phyrexian is a creature type. So I have this obviously I'm sure a lot of people do know, but just in case, I do have this version of Atraxa on me just in case if we need a reminder that Atraxa is officially a Phyrexian and Phyrexian is a creature type. And I'll explain that in the land section why that matters. Anyways, if you guys have been other than errata of added Phyrexian, if you guys have been playing Magic since 2013, obviously we all know what she does: flying villages, death touch, lifelink, and end step, activate free proliferate. This is an infect deck, so obviously you definitely want to use the proliferate to do the proliferate stuff. Now, the best way to play Atraxa if you're going with the poison route, typically you want to play passive. You want to play Pillow Fort, and that is usually one of the more, if not the most efficient way to play Atraxa. Now, with this deck right here, I do play some passive gameplay. I do have some cards where I do play a little passive. I do have some defensive cards time to time, but I try not to be too passive. Now, I know, you're absolutely right. That is not the best build. That is not the best direction. Go with Atraxa. You definitely want to Pillow Fort if you want to use Atraxa's Proliferate to end by poison. But I do that because I know pillow forting is not really my cup of tea, and I'd rather be at least a little bit aggressive. I want to at least earn my poison if that makes sense. I want to be able to earn my poison win to some degree at the very least. And so that's what the deck is trying to do. We're also trying to do some attacking. We're attacking with our infect and toxic creatures. We're trying to build up poison counters as best we can while we use cards like Atraxa. Yeah, both of these. While we use cards like Atraxa to just build up the poison counters and eventually win by poison as fast as you can. So it's more of a slightly hyper offense style of Atraxa, if that makes sense. So we do have the proliferate stuffs. We do have some passive-ish stuff here and there, but it is trying to go for attacking, as I explain why. So, yeah, this is our commander, this is our mander, and all that such. So, that's the pretty lady herself. And then, before we get to the infect creatures, etc., such, let's get the lands out of the way. The lands are pretty simple. Nothing really too much has changed with lands. We have the command tower, path of ancestry, exotic orchard. That's pretty much self-explanatory stuff. That's staple with every Magic deck essentially. And here's why the Phyrexian part matters: because now that Phyrexians, I know it's already happened since 2022, but bear with me. Since Phyrexians are now officially a creature type, this makes cards like Cavern of Souls very useful for the Infect deck. This gives Atraxa, and essentially all your Phyrexian creatures, especially including your Infect creatures, a way to prevent themselves from being countered. And that is important detail. And now, because all your Phyrexians are creature types, that means you now have Atraxa along with your entire engine, if not the majority of your engine, have some sort of protection, while this card also gives you color fixing as well. Which, let me tell you, ever since I learned that, and ever since I put Cavern Souls in my Infect deck, this card has actually saved my butt a lot more times than you think. You would not think that. You would not think that mattered. But there has been times where I played like an infect creature or a toxic creature while having Cavern Souls, and my opponent literally admitted that if it wasn't for the Cavern Souls, I probably would have lost. It's really funny when stuff like that resolves. Again, Unclaimed Territory, a little bit just like the Cavern Souls, unfortunately, doesn't have the protection stuff, but color fixing for creatures for obvious reasons. And then here's something that I put in recently. I'm glad I put in this card right here. The Seed Drum. So it taps for colorless. Other than that, I can add it for any color. Spend this mana only to cast Phyrexian creatures. So in a weird way, this deck is kind of, I don't know, you want to say evolve, but adapted. It pretty much feels like this deck has kind of adapted, especially in the land base. It kind of feels it's kind of adapted to more of a tribal based deck, almost to some degree, which is something. Oh, excuse me, which is something you don't normally expect to hear in an Infect deck, you normally just shove in, not shove in, but you normally put in cards that specifically just do Infect just because they conveniently happen to do Infect and such right here. But now that we've gotten more Phyrexian-ish and we have a lot of Phyrexians that do the toxic and poison stuff, cards like the Seedrum definitely do become very useful. And it also has a nice utility where if a player happens to be corrupted, we can target a 1/1 creature to get +2/+1 until end of turn, which can actually come in clutch, actually. Now, while we're not running as much Infect creatures as we used to, which I'm going to get to that very soon, just don't worry, I'll explain why it is what it is. It'll make more sense with the creatures. But having that as a utility to give a Glistener Elf or a Blighted Agent a +2/+1 where it matters the most, get that extra 3 points of Infect in while you can, is always definitely very appreciative. So the Seedrum is just pretty dope. I really do like this card right here. And then we have Mana Confluence, no explanation, and something else I recently added, Reflection Pool. Add 1 mana of any color that land I control could produce. So if your exotic orchard could produce any of your 4 colors, this can now produce 4 colors. If you have command tower, this can produce any color, and all that etc. So yeah, great color fixing. Surprisingly, I don't play this in my Dragon deck, not because I don't like this card, but because I'll be honest, it's kind of my only reflection pool. So I put this in my Atraxa deck, and the Dragon deck kind of has more aggressive-ish mana ramping, if that makes sense. Once I get my Dragon deck ready, I'll show you guys or tell you guys what I mean. But Reflective Pool, can't go wrong with Reflective Pool. It's a really good dope card. And yeah, that's for the cards that tap for any mana. You have your usual shock lands, your 6 shock lands that you have access to with this deck. I think no explanation needed why this is important right here. And of course, your 4 fetch lands as well. I'm sorry, 6 fetch lands. Again, pretty self-explanatory why we need all this. Unfortunately, the fetch lands have not been reprinted as often. They are still pretty expensive, so it is what it is. You're running Witch. You definitely want access to your 4 colors. So unfortunately, you gotta play this if you're playing competitive-ish with this deck right here. But hey, what can you do? And we are still running the triumphs in this deck as well. We're still running the 4, not the 4 copies of the, not copies, the 4 different triumphs we can run in this deck right here. Again, no explanation why they're in there for color fixing, all that such. Give you the colors you need. And basic lands. I've actually changed up the basic lands quite a bit. I think last time I did a profile, I think I had 3 of each basic. They're not obsolete. I don't care if this is a Wooburg. I don't care if this is a 4-color deck. I don't care if you have the greatest lands in the history of Magic. You need at least some basic lands. As I've said before in my Dragon deck, you never know who's going to have a Path of Ancestry. You never know who's going to have Assassin's Trophy. You never know who's going to have a Cellar Wreckage. And it's always better to at least have a basic that can do what basic land things do than to have no basic land and not have no land ramp at all. Plus, since you're playing Infect, obviously everyone's going to want to target you for obvious reasons. They're going to want your head on silver platter the most. So once your life gets to a lower point, you're not going to be able to afford life with your shock lance no more. So when that happens, your basic lands become your more optimal way to get your lance out to get your color fixing, unfortunately. So it is what it is. So, and then the rest of the lands is nothing really too special, nothing really too crazy. Fabled Passage, Evolving Wilds, and Terror Expanse, they're not as good as they used to be. I'm not gonna lie, they are kind of bummer that you're a lot more restricted. At least Fabled Passage, it gets better when the game gets longer, so it's not the worst thing ever. So if you get like 3 basic lands or 3 lands while you're sacking off Fabled Passage, at least it's not terrible then. At least it's not as bad as Temple of False God. Thank God for that. These 2, unfortunately, it is a bummer that your basic lands come in tapped, but we do run these not only because of the color fixing and deck thinning, but primarily the only reason we're running these besides the color fixing is, spoiler alert, deck profile, we are running evolution stage. So with Evolving Wilds along with your fetch lands, this gives you more possibilities to do some more landfall effects with your evolution stage, so that way you can start proliferating at a good pace. So yeah, unfortunately, not the best lands, but you gotta do what you gotta do. And then everything else is just nothing really too special. We have Rogue's Passage. No explanation why Rogue's Passage is in this. And we have I recently got the art update, the Phyrexian language um Inkmoth Nexus. It looks really cool. I love this card. I love the Phyrexian language. I didn't do this with all my Phyrexian cards, unfortunately. I I don't have Phyrexian language for every card that can be a Phyrexian language. I will definitely be adjusting that very soon. Eventually, I'm going to take out the basic lands you saw to put in the Phyrexian basic lands, the one that has either the oil inks or just the Phyrexian language, and that's it. Maybe we'll see what happens. But we all know what Inkmoth Nexus does. That card is just so good. I've stolen so many games with this card. And that's it for the land. And that is it for the lands. Now, you may have noticed I've definitely changed up quite a bit of my lands than before. I'm not relying on defensive lands like I am before. A lot of times I've noticed when I did defensive lands back when I first put together my Atraxa deck, I've noticed that every time I did that, I was losing out having colors that I needed to play my cards while or casting my spells, while also unintentionally locking myself out of playing cards in particular. Because there were certain lands that I was running that allowed me to do XYZ cool thing, which was cool and all, but ironically, those lands were not producing mana at all. And because of that, that unintentionally slowed down my deck quite a bit. So because of that, I ended up scrapping out all the lands of those types I explained. And I'm now running specifically color lands with the exception of Rogue's Passage and Inkmoth Nexus for obvious reasons. So yeah, I've definitely made a lot of improvements with the lands, and the deck has been a lot more efficient ever since I did that, I've noticed. And that is it for the lands. We are done with that. Before we get to the creatures, let's talk about the one Planeswalker. Beforehand, I was playing like two Planeswalkers, but I'm still playing the one. I'm still playing the Faresca's what was her name again? Phyrexia, Preaetor Sting. That I am still running the Preaetor Sting. This Phyrexia is awesome. I love her in this deck. If you've been playing Infect ever since this card came out, obviously we all know how good she is. I took out with Johnny because Johnny wasn't really doing what I wanted him to do. Believe it or not, despite me running a good amount of creatures and lands in this deck, every time I tried to use Phyrexian on Johnny to do his thing, I wasn't always getting what I needed. A lot of times I would hit a lot of non-creatures and non-lands, so every time I would plus his loyalty, he wasn't really contributing with what I wanted to do. And unfortunately, he just became like a dead card. The majority of the time my opponents saw him, they rarely interacted with him because they knew he wasn't really doing much. And I'm just and by the time the game was over, I was just like, what are you even doing here? Why am I even running you? So yeah, I did end up taking a Johnny out. It did feel bad. I thought it was really cool, but unfortunately the only real good Planeswalker for this type of Infect deck would definitely just be Faraska. Yeah, Faraska, at least she proliferates, and she could potentially get someone to be dead or almost dead by herself. Whereas a Johnny requires way too much setup for him to even be decent, and even then, you're just living on a prayer. If that makes sense. No song reference attended. I think I just dropped my card. What the heck did I just drop? All right, I don't think I dropped the card, but all right. So that is it. Oh, I did drop a card, but I found it. We're good. That is it for the only Planeswalker. Now for the main thing you guys are probably here for. We are here for the creatures. And I've done quite a bit of changes with the creatures. And when I mean quite a bit of changes, I mean quite a bit. And I will explain how much of a change I've done. So, this deck is still an Infect deck by definition, but believe it or not, we're not running too many Infect creatures like we used to. Now, we're still running the good ones. We're still running the ones that's infamous for Magic. Glistener Elf, obviously why. Blighted Agent, Plague Stinger, Ichor Rats. I don't think even if Infect does become quote unquote obsolete, there you go, obsolete. Even if Infect does become obsolete, I don't think Ichor Rats will ever be replaced in a poison counter deck. The fact that he ETBs gives everyone a poison counter is always going to be very good. He helps you speed up your plays. He helps you guarantee get someone to a poison counter. So especially if someone happens to somehow dodge you and avoid you for so long. So cards like Ichor Rats in a poison deck is always going to be very useful, very appreciative. Skitherix, you guys know how much I love my Skitherix, and Skitherix is just too good to take out. And Phyrexian Crusader, and that is all I am running for Infect creatures, or by definition, Infect creatures, believe it or not. Now, the reason why I cut out a lot of Infect creatures, except for these cards right here, is because there's a lot of complicated rulings how Infect goes through sometimes, and there's some awkward rulings that people have been taking advantage of recently, and you're not running really too many cards that power up your creature's power, believe it or not. Like, there is a few cards, there is a good amount of cards, or at least a slightly good amount of cards that at least do that, but you're not running enough to justify that. So because of that, and because of complicated rulings Infect does lead to, and the fact how much of a struggle it can be with using specific Infect creatures, it can be kind of a hassle to run the Infect creatures. Whereas nowadays, a lot of toxic creatures get the job done surprisingly faster without having needing a power up here and there. Now, obviously, these cards will never be obsolete. Unblockable. I'm sorry. Unblockable. A one drop that gets a poison in. Protection from good stuff. Skithers is Skithers, and as I explained with Ichor Rats. So these cards will never be obsolete in any of my poison decks. But with the exception of these guys right here, these are like the only Infect creatures that actually do get the job done without having to need the power. Because these guys set up Infect so fast on their own, they're the only ones that are doing what you want to do with your toxic creatures. So because of that, I have kind of leaned more towards not using Infect creatures and more towards toxic creatures. Toxic creatures have a lot of utility of building up Infect counters while attacking. So yeah, they're just a great utility to do your thing. So that's why we're doing what we're doing with the Infect creature. I know it feels weird, especially considering it's me of all people, but hey, gotta do what you gotta do. You want to get those poison counters going. And now we're going off to the toxic creatures. We're going with I call he's Plankton, but he's Scrub. Yeah. We got one copy of Scrub, aka Plankton. This guy is so fun. I love him. It's so funny that I can run Plankton in an evil deck. It's like the funniest yet coolest thing ever, honestly. Um, Give a target creature toxic one, and oh, also one more thing before I go any further with the Infect creatures. The one good thing about running toxic over Infect, or Infect over toxic, is that you have a lot of interesting ways where Infect and toxic can definitely work together at times. So you have cards like Plankton here that can give target creature toxic one and all that such. So you give something like Glistener Elf. So you can use Plankton, give Glistener Elf protection toxic one and of a certain color, and then you can swing with the Glistener Elf, and then Glistener Elf will, when he hits the opponent, he'll build up one poison from his Infect and one poison from the toxic. So that's two poison to someone. So there is some nice utility, but the better way I've noticed with Infect is to combo all with the Infect toxic really well. One of my techniques I've done with this deck is uh since a lot of toxic creatures have a natural way to build their own power on their own without wasting resources or using little resources, what I'll do is I'll use cards like Plankton or other cards, for example, build up your power, give something toxic, or at least give yourself some power. And then what I'll do, I'll give you guys a quick minor spoiler when we. I don't care. I'll show you guys because I love you guys that much. Where the heck is I just had it earlier. There it is. So by playing cards that allow your toxic creatures to power up their power, you play cards like Triumphant Herds and Tainted Strike. So that way, as they power up and you give the toxic creatures Infect too, they will build up so much power naturally to the point where the toxic and the Infect at once on one creature will build up so many poison counters at once, and you'll either win the game by that immediately on the spot, or at the very least build up enough poison counters right off the bat to at least like lean back and just let your proliferate do all the rest of the work. So yeah, really cool that you can do stuff like that. So anyways, Blaketon, give something toxic one and a protection from a certain color. Really cool. Can't go wrong with that. Next we have one copy of Crawling Course. I mean, it's an okay card. It's a 1/1 with Toxic, so it's a 1-drop, which is always good. But the one thing that's really good about it is that at least when it dies, it also creates a 1/1 Phyrexian Might that unfortunately is not able to block. So the cool part about this is, let's say you need Chump Blocker, use this, block something. This dies. This gives you a 1/1 Toxic one creature that can at least build some more Infect poison counters to your opponent. Still playing the Raw Priest. If you see my previous build, you know why this card is so good. And then I don't remember if I was playing this card before in a previous build, but I'm putting in Bilious Skullwielder. Uh, 1/1 with Toxic 1 and Death Touch, not bad. But the main reason we run this card right here, it's a 1/1 for Toxic 1, which is not terrible on its own right. But we have a certain card in particular at the end of the creatures. I'll show you all very soon how we can really utilize that Death Touch. So once we get to the end, you'll see why this on Death Touch on this and this on Atraxa is really good. So yeah, there's some really nice cool combos you can do right there. And then next up, we're playing one Slaughter Stinger. This card is just nuts. I really like this guy right here. Toxic 2, so right off the bat, he's pretty good for 2/2 for green and black. Oh, no, I'm sorry, green and white, that's it. Whenever another creature you control with toxic attacks, it gains +1/+1 until end of turn. So as I was mentioning earlier, there are ways to give your toxic creatures more power without having to rely on wasting any resources, which is good because cards like Stinger right here, while he is power up your toxic creatures, you can play cards like Triumph or Tainted Strike or Poop Knife, as most people would say. So that way you can start combo off and start building up poison damage really quickly. Like even a Tainted Strike on Slaughter Stinger is just nuts. Toxic 2 already, then Stinger giving +1 Infect. So assuming you don't block, your opponent does not block when you do that, boom, you swing your opponent. That's 5 Infect right there. Boom, that person is already halfway dead, which is just nuts. And then one Phileas Symbiote, I can't say his name right, I'm sorry. Just like Plague Stringer, he's a 1/1 flyer for only 2 mana. And he does do Toxic 1, so he's evasive for poison counters, just like Plague Stringer, which is pretty cool. And then Voidwing Hybrid. I like this dude. This card is fun. Flying Toxic 1 for a blue and a black for 2/1, which is not terrible. But what's really cool about him is anytime you proliferate while he's in your graveyard, you can immediately add him from your graveyard to your hand. So he's toxic. He's a toxic creature that will always be at your disposal. The fact that he can just be back in your hand without wasting resources, and you always have a creature that you can always replay, and always have a blocker, or hopefully potentially build more poison on someone, and it's evasive with all that. So it's definitely a very underrated card, and I'm really glad he's been in my deck still. He's just really good. And then a single copy. Why do I keep saying single copy? It's Commander. Of course, everything is single copy except cards that say otherwise. Blight Belly Rat. This card is nuts. It's not as good as Ichor Rats, but it's a really dope card. 2/2 for black and white. You get a 2/2 that is Toxic 1, and when he enters, you get to proliferate. So he's just another ETB proliferate. Plus, he's at least a Toxic 1, which is definitely very useful in a deck like this. And then this is where the heavy duty stuff comes in. We have Bloated Contaminator. Toxic 1, trample. So if he deals combat damage with things to trample, he's always going to deal at least one infect damage. And he also has a nice ability of whenever he deals combat damage to a player proliferate. So when he attacks one player in particular, that person is going to get at least 2 poison counters, while the other two players, assuming they have at least 1 poison, is going to get additional poison. So really nice. Another way that lets me suit my playstyle more. This allows me to be aggressive like I like to be, while still doing what Atraxa wants to do and proliferate. And then I don't know if I was running this card the last build too. Forgive me if I don't remember. We're playing the other Rot Priest, Necroing Rot Priest. So for a 5/1 for 2 green black, he's a Toxic 2, which on its own is not terrible. But he also has the ability of whenever a creature you control with Toxic deals combat damage to a player, that player gets an additional poison counter. So it's any toxic creature, including this too. So anytime a creature with toxic deals combat damage, you also build up an additional poison counter, which again allows you to be more aggressive while doing what you want to do with your proliferate stuff as well. And also, it also has a nice utility of for a green, a black, and anything, target creature with toxic you control gains death touch. So it's really good in case someone's getting a little aggressive on you. You need someone to chump block it. Guess what? If they swing you with a 10/10, you can use your Rot Priest right here's ability, give that toxic creature you're blocking death touch, so that death touch creature can kill that big 10/10 by itself. So you just lost a 1/1 for a mere, just in exchange for a 10/10, which is a great trade-off. So yeah, definitely underrated card. And as I mentioned with the other death touch creature, it definitely combos off with a card I'm going to be showing you at the end of the creature lineup. So I can't wait to show you that. And then Scion of Atraxa. This card is over nuts. Flying Vigilance Toxic 2 for a Phyrexian Angel with 2/5. For a green, white, black, and 1 of anything. But what you really use her for, I mean, if you can build infect counters with her, that's a nice additional bonus. Especially this is what this deck does. But the main thing you run her for is for her ability. At the beginning of your end step, you essentially take a top card of every opponent's libraries who is currently at 3 or more infect counters. You take those cards from the top of those decks, they become exiled, and you can cast those cards anytime you would cast them normally. And you can cast those spells as if it's mana of any color. So you can steal counter spells, you can steal their boss creatures. If you're low on lands, you can take lands that you're stolen from this and use their lands as your land for turns. If my ruling is correct, don't quote me. So really underrated card, like this card, and there's a reason why she's a good commander on herself as well. And I might build a commander deck with her in near future. Don't hold me, but it would be cool if we did that. And they want Containment Grafter, same as the last build. Trample Toxic 1 for a 5/5 for green 4. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, whenever one or more creatures deals combat damage to a player. So as long as one creature deals combat damage to a player somehow, whether it's him or other your creatures. By the way, another advantage with toxic creatures, since you are dealing regular combat damage while doing poison damage at the same time, as I was mentioning with the rulings I was mentioning earlier, this will definitely allow you to utilize more cards that rely on utilizing combat damage. Whereas Infect always had that weird ruling where if an infect damage did combat damage, you would miss out with certain things depending on what XYZ card did or something like that. It was always complicated with that. But with the toxic, since you're still doing regular combat damage while doing poison damage, granted it's a little bit less than infect, but still does it. Since you're doing that, this will definitely give you utility to use those cards that benefit from dealing combat damage. So yeah, as I explained, a major reason why we've cut out a lot of infect creatures, and this is a prime example of that. And also, it also has that utility of if at least one player is at least 3 or more poison counters during your end step, you not only get to draw a card, but you could potentially put down another land if you want to. So, land ramp, drawing. What more could you ask for a card like this? And last for the Phyrexian creatures, last of the other, not Phyrexian creatures, and the last of the toxic creatures to finally finish them off. I added, well, I already had this card. I put it in my Infect Fangbearer deck, but I got this art version of him because I put the original version I had before. I put in the Fin deck. So hey, I need a new Tyrant. I need a new Rex card, and I figured, hey, I might as well get this cool artwork, and it is cool. I love the Phyrexian dinosaur. This spell can't be countered. Literally a blue player's worst nightmare. Trample, Toxic 4, Ward 4, and Haste. So again, another reason why Infect isn't as good as it used to be because of something like Toxic. So because of Toxic ruling, so either your opponent jump blocks with a 7/7 and they only took like 1 combat damage and that was it somehow. Since he has trample, since he did combat damage, he will still do 4 infect damage or toxic damage, I meant to say, still giving your opponent 4 infect counters or poison counters. I'm sorry, still give your opponent 4 poison counters, which is why toxic is such an underrated monster in decks like this. And this is the absolute beast to help you utilize that, and I love this card very, very much. It's also another card I've stolen games with because of him. And that is it for the toxic and toxic and infect creatures. Everything else is just what I would call the utility creatures that help the deck does what the deck does. So everything else is just Delight Halfling, Birds of Paradise. I don't think I need to explain why these cards are in there. And then I do have a small quote unquote small proliferate engine along with your toxic creatures. The evolution stage, as we mentioned before, Flux Chandler, and Evangel. I think they were in the previous. Yeah, they were definitely in the previous build before. But anyways, play a land, proliferate, play a non-creature or creature, proliferate, play a creature. No, I'm sorry. Play a non-creature, proliferate, play a creature, proliferate. So a proliferate engine in general. And speaking of Proliferate Angel, I'm kicking myself in the butt for never playing this card in this deck up till recently. Never since I put this card back. It's been very helpful. I put back in Thumbing Bird. I love this card. I don't know why I took this card out in the first place, and I don't know why people used to bash on this card. And ever since I put this card back, it's been helping me a lot. I'm glad I did. So it's a blue one for a 1/1 with flying. It doesn't have Toxic, it doesn't have Infect, but it does have when this creature deals combat damage to a player, proliferate. So what's really good is that unlike your toxic creatures or infect creatures, the majority of your invasive flyers and such with toxic or infect, they can only deal like 1 infect to 1 player. Because Hummingbird gives you proliferate, he essentially becomes hit 1 player, everyone gets a poison counter essentially, as long as they had at least 1 poison counter. And I don't know why. I don't know why I did not run this card back in the deck up till recently. Ever since I put this card back in this deck, I've been doing a lot more. It's been a lot more easier doing what I want to do without wasting your resources. The fact that he's flying, and I don't even have to attack the winning player neither. So I can just text someone. It's a 1/1, so it's not going to hurt anybody's life really, unless they're like low on life. But obviously you're playing infect or toxic, whatever you want to call this. You're obviously playing poison counters. So the goal of the deck, build up poison counters. What does this motherfucker do? He builds up poison counters. How do you do it? You just hit a person. Does it have to be a winning person? No. Does it have to be a losing person? No. Does it matter does it hit? No. He just has hit. Ooh, I'm moving the camera. Sorry, chat. Sorry about that. No, I screwed up. No, I don't. Ah, ah. Damn it. All right, screw it. We'll rock it with this. Anyways, what's your goal? Build poison counters. What does it do? Build your poison counters as it hits someone. So, shut up! Build poison counters. Do your job. That's what he does. And then here's that tech card I was talking about with Atraxa and the Death Touch creatures. If you've seen the previous build, I think you already know who he is. But for those of you guys who don't know, Finn the Fangbearer. And I've also built a commander with him too not too long ago. And I can't wait to show you guys a profile of him. Finn the Fangbearer. Whenever a creature with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, he's a 1/3 with Death Touch himself, green 1. Anyways, any creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, that player gains 2 poison counters. So he combos off with The main thing we use them for is obviously to combo off with Atraxa. In case the proliferate isn't doing fast enough, if you need a certain player to die immediately, just play your Finn and then have Atraxa or one of your other Death Touch creatures hit someone, and then that person will gain 2 poison counters. And then once you go to end step, Atraxa will definitely proliferate, giving that person additional poison counter. So this will definitely allow you to speed up your poison plays very quickly, very fast. Definitely something that you definitely want to do for a deck like this. So not only combos out with Atraxa, which is the main thing we run him for, as we mentioned previously. Where the heck did he go? Oh yeah, he definitely combos off with this dude, as we mentioned, and he also combos off with our big rock priest, as I mentioned. Where the heck did she go? I just saw her. There she is. So our big rock priest lady, she gives target toxic creature death touch. So let's say, let me use Rock Priest. Where's the heck is my Rock Priest? The original Rock Priest. There it is. Let's use Tiny Rock Priest. So the good thing about Finn, let's just say you don't have. Let's just say, you have hypothetically. Let's say you have Finn. Let's say you have a Rock Priest, the little small Rock Priest, and let's say you have big Rock Priest. So there's some cool combos you can do with this combo right here. Okay, so what you can do, let's say you have the mana while you have Finn the Fangbearer, small rock priest, big rock priest. You use big rock priest ability. You use big rock priest ability, target your small rock priest because she's the only other target that's toxic. And since she was targeted, small rock priest ability will trigger. Certain person will get a poison counter. Let's just say we're tagging one person specifically. Let's just say I don't like you. You pissed me off. You forgot to wish me happy birthday. Fuck you, player 3. So we'll target player 3. So player 3 will target with small rock priest ability. Player 3 will get a poison counter because of small rock priest ability. Now she has death touch and toxic 1. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna go to combat because we're petty and we want player 3 pay for not being nice to us. We're gonna swing Rock Priest with Death Touch, Toxic 1 at player 3. So assuming no blockers, let's assume that best case scenario. Hit player 3. Guess what? That's additional poison counter because of Rock Priest, small Rock Priest because it's Toxic 1, so that's 2 poison counters. And Finn's ability sends a creature with Death Touch dealt combat damage to a player. You're going to deal an additional poison counter to that person. So with just that swing and combo on with these 2 cards right here, guess what? Player 3 just got 4 poison counters in 1 turn. Assuming you don't attack with these 2 right here. Again, hypothetically speaking. So combos like this will definitely allow you to build up poison very fast, very efficiently, and then immediately afterwards, cards like your Atraxa will definitely build up your poison counters at a very fast rate. So yeah, there is some really nice, fun, nifty combos you can do right there. And to finally finish off the creatures, finally finish off the creatures before we move on to everything else. Something I also recently added a deck, and it's been a great utility to my surprise. We've got Stalker of Spheres. It's for a 3/3 for a green blue 2 of anything for a Phyrexian Elf Warrior. So it combos over the Phyrexian stuff. If we don't get her first ability, it's not the end of the world. If we don't get her first ability, I'll explain what that does a little bit. It's not the end of the world. As long as we can utilize her second ability, which does happen quite a bit, she still gets in the job just fine as it is. But what she does, for those of you guys who don't know, when Stalker Spheres enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 mana. So in total, you pay her for... assuming you don't have mana reduction or you don't have mana ramp. Let's assume you have 7 lands, and each your opponents have like at least 3 poison counters. Let's just assume that. So 7 lands. Let's assume 7 lands. So you would have to tap 7 lands in total, ignoring other stuff, provided you don't have other stuff. Bear with me. So you would have to tap for like 7 mana total to utilize casting her and utilizing her first ability. But when you do that, proliferate twice. So let's say you spend your 7 mana to cast her, you bust her on the battlefield, she's gonna immediately proliferate twice, and what's gonna happen is, let's say as I said earlier, let's say all 3 of your opponents opponents had 3 poison counters before you dropped her. You paid your 7 mana. Guess what? Boom! Instantly, they just gained 2 poison counters. Your opponent just gained went from 3 to 5, which is really nuts. But again, what we really mostly use her for is for her whenever you proliferate, draw a card. So you're gonna burn out this deck pretty fast. You're not always gonna be able to have your resources at a quick pace. So cards like her can definitely help you draw into your resources, so you can definitely draw into what you need at a good pace. And it's really funny that she's blue and green, because my friends have made jokes about her that she's like, wow, Christian, is this your Century Pot of Green? Because that's what she essentially is. For 7 mana, I cast her to proliferate twice. Everyone will go from 3 poison to 5 poison, assuming that's the rate right now. And then she'll allow me to draw 2 cards. So she's essentially Melted Pot of Green. So I guess I haven't technically quit Yu-Gi-Oh! Yet. Alright. So, that is it. Finally. That is finally the end of the creatures. Now let's get the artifacts out of the way quickly. So artifacts, nothing really too special, just as straightforward can be. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Pharaoh Stone, Glistening Sphere. This card is awesome. If you see my previous video, you know how awesome this card is. But short and sweet, for those guys who don't know, when you cast this card, it comes untapped. But when this card is casted, you proliferate. So a built-in proliferate engine for 3 mana, 3 colorless mana, still really good. But what it does is you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color. But if an opponent has at least 3 poison counters, so it just has to be at least one person. If a person has at least 3 poison counters, instead you could tap it for 3 mana, but they all have to be the same color. You're playing Infect. Why not utilize this card? It's a built-in free proliferate, and it gives you huge ramping once you get your poison stuff going. So very useful. And wants to have a completion. I don't think I need to explain why this card is so good. This card is bonkers, and it just does so much. Proliferate, draw a card, add a mana if you need it. It just does so much that it needs to. And I'm so glad I run this card right here. It's been really helpful ever since I put it in. And that's all we're running for artifacts. Before we move on to the poison, actually, no, let's get the poison stuff out of the way. We are running a good amount of sorceries and instants to build up poison counters, proliferate for poison counters, all that, etc. such. So yeah, if you've seen my previous video, I think you already know what's a good portion of this deck right here already. Prologue of Phyrexis, draw a card and draw a card, and then everyone gets a poison counter. So it's direct poison, by the way. So this is a section of cards where, in case if my opponents are somehow evading not getting poison counters, cards like this will definitely allow me to hit them with poison directly to the face, so that way they can't avoid me forever, and I can start immediately proliferate after I directly give them poison counters, and I can just pop off from there. So anyways, back when I was showcasing, my apologies, I had to reorganize something. Prologue of Phyrexis, as I mentioned, direct poison to all of my opponents. I draw a card. 1 Infectious Query. All my opponents gain a poison counter. I draw 2 cards, but I lose 2 life, which is a small price to pay to do that. Vraska's Fall. Each player sacrifices a creature or opponent, but they also gain a poison. Sweet. And then something I recently added in the deck, and I'm kind of mad at myself that I didn't do this till now. 1 Infectious Bite. This card is so underrated in this deck right here. So, what this card is, target creature I control deals damage equal to its power target creature you don't control. So it's like a weird burn spell in the way. So you have your Atraxa on the battlefield. If you have your somewhat big creatures, you could target one of your somewhat big creatures, or Vraska, have it deal damage equal to its power to another creature, kill that creature, potentially, hopefully, and while still doing direct poison counters, which is very, very useful. I'm still kicking myself in the butt to this day that I never put in this card till recently. It's been really helpful. And then for a board wipes, supposedly card, Phyrexia's Outbreak. Each opponent gets a poison counter. Then all their creatures get -1/-1 for each poison counter they have on them. So if player A has 6 poison counters after that happened, all their creatures will have, while player B has 7 poison counters after this card is resolved. Player A is going to lose, all their creatures are going to be -6/-6, while player B is going to lose -7/-7. So a very nice utility board wipe card while still building up poison counters. And then for the proliferate cards, we have Unnatural Restoration. Get permanent back from my graveyard to my hand, lands, creatures, etc. And then, or artifacts, enchantments, all that good stuff. And then I proliferate. Experimental Inquiry. I look at the top 5 cards, was it? 3 cards, I'm sorry. I look at the top 3 cards in my library. One of them goes in my hand, and the rest go to the bottom, and then I proliferate. One Contagiously Plan. I draw a card, proliferate. And then one Down of Inker. Target creature gets -4/-4, then I proliferate. As long as a creature is at a decent power or rate, it's pretty much a kill spell essentially. And then I proliferate. And then Study of Progress for 3 mana of blue. I mean, it's 3 mana, but at least it's an instant. So you can cast it during your opponent's turn before your turn begins. Cast this, get free draw, and proliferate. And then one Tezzeret Gambit. You don't have to pay mana except for 1 color, and that's it. Or no, I'm sorry, 3 colors. I'm sorry. So you don't have to pay the blue color if you don't want to. So you can just pay 2 life and still proliferate and draw 2 cards. It's really funny when I play this card when I don't have anything that tasks for blue yet, and I just have like swamps and forests, and I just pay 2 life, play a blue card, and my opponents look at me and be like, "What the fuck?" So play this, proliferate. All my opponents will gain additional poison counter. Draw 2 cards. Playing blue without playing blue. It's funny when stuff like that happens. So yeah, those are my spells that do what spells do for the poison and proliferate stuff. And then we do have a few spells for ramping up the lands here and there. We have 1 Nature's Lure, 3 Visits, and Farseek. I don't think I need an explanation why these cards are so good. Get the Triomes out, get the Shock Lands out, Basic outs, whatever you need to do your stuff. And then we are running some enchantments. I think you already know this by now, or if you look at the title of this video, I think you guys already know this now. I've kind of geared this deck towards bracket 4. I forgot to mention this at the beginning of this video. I've kind of geared towards both this deck and my Dragon deck to more towards bracket 4, actually. I've been doing a little bit more bracket 4 stuff, and I've been doing a little bit more competitive-ish events more often. My locals that were in my hometown, excuse me, in my hometown, they just said, F it, let's just do bracket 4, and we've been doing a lot of bracket 4, and I've geared my Atraxa and Dragon for bracket 4, and I've been going pretty nuts. So, anyways, enchantments. Since I'm playing Atraxa, since I'm playing Infect, or quote-unquote Infect, and people hate my guts anyways, I might as well play other cards to piss my opponents off. So, for the enchantments, we have the obvious stuff. Rhystic Studies, Smother and Tithe. No explanation of why they're in there. If you guys have been playing Magic for a while, I think you know why people hate these cards right here. Phyrexian Arena, because in case we don't get Rhystic Studies, we definitely want a continuous way to keep drawing cards without wasting resources. We're playing Infect. We don't care about life too much, so losing 1 life, just draw an additional card is definitely always helpful. And then we have Norn's Decree. I showed this before. Love this card to death. I mentioned how much I love this card in the previous video, and I do. I absolutely love this card. It plays a lot of politicking, which is really funny. It gives you some card draw, so rewards you for being aggressive, despite this deck not supposed to be aggressive, quote unquote. So it rewards you for being aggressive. So as you attack an as you attack someone who's currently poisoned, you get free draw, and every time someone attacks you, it also plays defensively too. So every time someone attacks you, that person will gain a poison counter. It's so funny how defensive and aggressive this card acts for a deck like this. It's so funny. And speaking of funny things, I recently added this card to the deck. Corrupted Conscience. Chain creature, you control a chain creature, so it's an aura spell. I could take someone's creature, and it's my creature. It becomes my creature. So I take that creature, and not only I take that creature, but that creature gains Infect. So I can use this card, take someone's commander, take someone's really busted boss-like creature, and I can either use that creature against them, kill that opponent immediately on the spot, or if I know taking that creature, that person no longer becomes a threat, especially that card is it happens to be that commander. Let's say I'm using Ur Dragon for example. Let's say player A is playing Ur Dragon. I play this, take their Ur Dragon, and if I know, let's just say they had like the most awkward hand ever. Like they have like one card or no cards in hand, and they have no creatures in the battlefield. Hypothetically, this is hypothetically again. So let's say you take the Ur Dragon, you don't have to kill the Ur Dragon Instead, what you can do is, let's say player B becomes a big threat and they have no ways to block the Ur Dragon. You take the Ur Dragon and you can just swing the Ur Dragon, now have an Infect, and kill that person right off the bat. Essentially turn that person into a Blightsteel Colossus and just kill player B, taking them out of the game while having player A no longer be a threat to you because you have their commander or another really big important creature, and you just keep laying people out for days, which is just nuts for a deck like this. And that is it for the enchantments. Now, this is what I call the interaction section. Technically, we have seen a good portion of those interaction creature stuff that can interact with the opponents, but I did play more interactive cards just because I knew how important it was to deal with certain things. So, especially when it comes to counter spells, and I did add a few change-ups of counter spells quite a bit. Previous video, I had the counter spells that were for flavor wise. The ones that say that your opponent happens to be infected or corrupted, they cannot respond to it, or something such like that, or something related to the case. I ended up taking those cards out, not because I didn't like them, but they were way too reliant on having your opponent's poison. Now, on paper, that seems like the obvious thing to do. You're all probably thinking, Christian, just you're playing Infect, just poison your opponent. Why is that a bad thing? Well, the reason is sometimes there are opponents who are gonna be on guard. They're gonna do everything they can in their power to stop themselves from being poisoned. And if that happens, if they happen to do a good job doing that, those counter spells, as I mentioned, that only are good when your opponent happens to be poisoned, automatically don't become that good no more. So it sucked. I really loved the flavor text, but I had to do it because they just weren't doing their jobs as well as I thought they would. So because of that, I ended up taking those cards out for offer you can't refuse. And then the spicy little tech I decided to add is veto. Yeah, blue-white counter spell that says this cannot be countered. So if something says counter, it gets countered. So yeah, a much better improvement compared to what I had before. And then the obvious staple stuff, we have your Sword of Plowshare and Assassin's Trophy. I don't think I need an explanation why this is needed. Psychonic Rift. We're playing bracket 4. Why not? And then we're playing Anguish Unmarking. I like this artwork. It's really cool. This is just nice because this can hit other things besides creatures. Assassin's Trophy is kind of like that too, but this exiles a threat, and this can hit anything: creatures, artifacts, enchantments, something that's indestructible, anything. So whatever is annoying you, whatever is giving you the biggest beef, biggest problem, this is your answer, providing if it doesn't have like hexproof or protection for white and black. As long as there's no protection white and black, indestructible, or hexproof, etc. such, get rid of it. This is your answer to stuff like that. And since we're playing the bad guys, we might as well play everyone's totally favorite board wipe card, Farewell. In case if someone gets way too scary or the game gets way too scary, you have a Farewell, so you can tell your opponents, farewell. You know, I want to rant about this. A small rant. I'm going to be super quick, I promise. I'm very surprised this didn't become a game changer up till recently. Now, I agree that this card is a game changer. I'm glad this card became a game changer. But why did it take Wizards of the Coast so dang long for this dang card to become a game changer? Like, yes, it is not the most broken board wipe. It is not the most broken card ever. Obviously, there are better board wipes than this, but the fact this card drags on this game as often as it can, and how much of a bane to everybody's existence it has been, except for like CDH, whatever such, I am surprised it took Wizard of the Coast so dang long for them to ban this dang card. Like, holy crap, Wizards! What the hell? And we are running one tutor, just one tutor, demonic tutor. No explanation of why it's in here. We're playing bracket 4, why not? And then, as I mentioned earlier, you saw the spoiler from way at the beginning, the Take the Strike, and Triumph of the Herds. No explanation needed with those cards, especially what I just babbled about at the beginning of this video. And yeah, everybody, that is it for the Atraxa deck profile, the Atraxa Infect deck. I'm really happy with how it's been. I'm really happy with the changes I've done with the deck. The deck is not perfect. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm recovering from a cold, and I did smoke a little bit of marijuana. I do apologize. Anywho, I'm happy with how the deck is so far. Now, there is definitely room for criticism. There is definitely room for improvements. If you guys want to give me criticism, I do open criticism, even if it's negative criticism. Just be subtle, just be mature, just be like, hey, Christian, I don't think it's a good idea that you do this and that, and this. I would suggest you take out that card and then put in this card instead, so you do that thing, and I will appreciate that. I would definitely really do appreciate that if you guys took the time and gave me constructive criticism. It would definitely mean a lot to me. But it's a really cool deck. I'm happy with how it is at the moment. I'm very impressed with how the deck is. And yes, as you guys can expect, typically when I play this deck, I do typically become public enemy number 1. And honestly, I won't lie, considering what I've done with this deck in the past, especially even before I made the improvements I've done, this is one of the only few decks, if not the only deck, I can actually pardon my friends from targeting me the most. Oh, my friends have said some mean things about my Atraxa. Things that are so crude, I can't say on YouTube or Twitch because I might get demonetized or get hit hard. So it's that bad. So, with that being said, everybody, thank you all again so much for watching. Hope to see you guys around. And I'm out. Bye. Peace. And I love yous.